Right, hi there, good morning, welcome back. Okay, I hope you like that so far. I really enjoyed that, it's great fun putting that on now, seeing that in base coat, that's excellent. A few of you might have already mentioned, I think you have said in the comments in previous videos that it should have been silver, like the under tray should have been to match the tail. I get that, absolutely, completely understand that is logical and you're right. However, the silver period is going, all of it. The silver was initially an idea as a base coat. Mackie told me to put that on there as a base coat for the paint job we were going to do back at the beginning. I was going to do a Geiger inspired paint scheme in the custom work, but I'm not going to do that now. Decided it's a little bit dated as an art genre. It's kind of from the 80s and I want to do something that updates this Street Fighter and brings it up to the modern style, because the Street Fighter itself is a dated genre of bike. There really aren't that many around anymore, so I want to bring it bang up to date, make it look more like one of the modern Street Fighter bikes that you see coming out the factories now, but at the same time not a factory bike. Please don't blame me on that. The point is I want to do something a little bit different, and that involves black as its base colour. So that's what I'm doing with this. As you saw on the fire paint job, we used the black, this Simonized Tough Black, as the base coat, sanded it all back. It took the artwork paint, the airbrush paint beautifully, and it took 6 coats of clear, 2-pack over the top, absolutely beautifully. So that's what we'll be doing with this, because I know it's a tried and tested format, and that's why I've been shopping to get all of the black to do the rest of it. I've got to do the tank, the belly pan, and the seat unit, which are big areas of paintwork to do, and of course the little nose cone as well. So the whole thing's going to be sat in black by the time it's MOT. Now that's a little series coming up. It's going to be obviously straightforward, hopefully one piece per video. That would be a nice way to do it. So what is that? 4 videos. Hopefully I can get that all done, not dragging it out too much. I know you want to see this on the road. So to that end I've been shopping, obviously. Not going to do any paintwork today, I've got another project planned, but shopping is what it's all about. I've got to get all the materials for that paint job now, so just get all this out, show you what I've got. Right, okay, as you can see, went shopping. Now, to get enough paint to do this, I did think long and hard about going and getting some regular paint in a can, and then all the thinners and the activator and all the rest of it, and doing it with a spray gun, because there's a lot of it. A couple of reasons why I didn't do that. It actually still works out more expensive than I paid, and it's so much more mess. It truly is. When we painted the fire paint job in here with the 2-pack, we did it with a spray gun. Honestly, there is still overspray and mess in here from that I've yet to manage to get off the units. That 2-pack paint is a nightmare. This time when we do it, I'm going to shroud this place out like a Bedouin tent, so none of it gets near the walls, the units or anything. But last time we didn't, so I don't really want to be doing that. It's so much more grief. I want to be able to do one piece of that bodywork per video. So tank, 1 video, belly pan, 1 video, so on. And I can't do that if I have to set the whole garage up each time like a spray booth. It's just so much work and it will take a lot longer. Rattle cans is the way. The other thing is I couldn't find Simonized Tough Paint as a naked paint, as a raw paint, and then the relevant correct thinners for it. It only seems to be available cheaply and reasonably in a rattle can format, but I've used this before to great effect on the other project and it absolutely works. So that's why I've gone for cans. Now normally these cans cost about 8 or 9 quid. They're quite expensive. £7 I think is the £6.99 is the least I've paid for this when you buy 6 at a time. So I shopped a little bit more. Penny had a look online for me and we came up with 12 cans for £4.99 each. We did a good deal. These are literally less than a £5 a can, but you had to buy 12. And I'm going to use them all, so I may as well. Even if I don't use them all, I'll have some left in stock in the cupboard for later on. The other thing was paper. A lot of rubbing down going to happen, so I've got a big 10-metre roll of 120 grit. That's what I think is the right grit for this. It's already painted, it's already in its base coat, so I've just got to rough that back out, get it all flattened off, a little bit of work with the Dynaglaze, getting it absolutely right or as much as I can, and then I've got 2 packs of assorted wet and dry, 20 sheets in each, so 40 sheets of wet and dry. That cuts into 4, so effectively there's going to be shed loads of paper. That will get all the rubbing down paper I need, and the whole lot there came to £91. Now if I'd gone to a DIY store or the car accessory store and bought all this, it would have come to nearly twice that. It truly would, probably more so. So £91 wasn't a bad deal for all that. That's all the materials to paint this. If you go and buy 1 litre of naked paint, of actual raw paint, and some thinners to paint anything, a car or whatever, that's going to cost you 100 quid easily, especially if it's something special, a special colour or a flake or something like that. So I think I did a good deal. I think I've done right and wise, spending our fantastic patrons' money, and it's thank you to the patrons. You guys are the ones that support us with this. This gives us the ability to buy this stuff. I will update the board at the end of the day. £91 spent on the project this week for this part of the project. Right now, because painting and bodywork has been the last 2 or 3 videos, it's been rolling on a little bit. I don't want to bore you with that, so today I'm going to do something a little bit different, not involving bodywork at all. So let's show you what we're going to do today. Okay, Right, for a little break, just stepping away from the paintwork and bodywork for a little minute, I want to do something more fabricated on this. This is the rear master cylinder for the brakes, and this is the reservoir, and obviously that's dangling around on its original hose, which is now way too long, so I'm going to make that look a lot tidier and neater. This actual reservoir itself is way too big and unnecessary, don't need that. I've got a smaller one ready for it, and I'm going to secure it further down here and neatly in position so it's nice and out the way. And then I've got to reconnect the rear brake light switch into there as well, make that a nice little install, and then the rear brakes are ready to sign off. And that'll be another job done. So let's shut up and get on with it. Alright, little tip for you if you're going to do this. I'm going from that big ugly factory pot to that little HEL pot. Hell hoses, you know, one of those. Superb little piece of kit. Got that from Wimoto. I'll put a link underneath because they're really handy. You can go down to those anytime. They've got the proper little rubber diaphragm inside and everything. And they're, because HEL hoses, they're a top quality brand, so you know it's not some little piece of junk. That's a nice little reservoir, even with an upper and lower marker on it. It's just like a miniature version of the original, and that's going to go in there neatly out of the way. And I have to run the hose round and onto the reservoir. Quite straightforward until you look at those. There's the two hose sizes. That's 10mm, the original factory one. Well, that bulge is 11, and that there is 6.5mm, and that bulge is 7. So I've got to put some way of reducing and expanding. And there's a little trick for you, so I'll share this with you. Got plenty of the hose. I'm using this stuff. There's a little offcut. I'm using this stuff because it's armoured hose or reinforced hose. It's got like a silk or nylon reinforcing inside it. You can see by the ripply shape. But what's nice about it is if you turn it in a sharp angle like that, it doesn't kink straight away. A regular ordinary rubber hose will kink at that point, but that does, it goes almost right round to there before that kinks off. So it's only going to have perhaps a 90-degree bend in it at this point going in, and that's great because it won't kink. So I'm using that stuff, and I need to stretch it. It's currently 7mm internal bore, which is great because it fits nicely on there with a little clip that will hold in place. Job done. That'll be fine, but that then doesn't go over there. It's too small. So I'm going to stretch it. It's a little trick for you. You can just use a bolt. That's a 10mm bolt, same size as that. And then I'm just going to screw that in. And as you screw that in, the thread will draw itself into the hose. Now you're not looking to cut or wear any of the inside part of the hose away. If anything, put a little tiny bit of grease in there or something. You're just looking to stretch it. That's all. Screw it in as far as you want it to stretch. That's got to go on about just under 1 inch. And that's just as an example. That's what you get. It stretches the end out like that. Now what I'm going to do with that, if it was a cold day, you leave that on a heater or a radiator just to soften up. You can put it in boiling water if you like, that will soften it right up. But just leave that in there for about an hour, and then when you take it out, that end will be a bit baggy. It does shrink back, so as soon as you take it out, get it straight on there, put the clip round it, that's it, it's on, super. And it fits and it's safe because it's armoured or reinforced, it won't split. And as long as you cut a nice end with no little nicks in it or anything. So there's a little trick for you. How to stretch a rubber hose, use a bolt, stretch it out, just leave it for an hour or so. So I'm going to make a cup of tea while that happens. Right, there we are, got it, nice and secure. It took a little bit of hairdryer heat and probably an hour or so over this, which is 12mm bolt, so to stretch it just a little bit beyond. And also I put a little bit of red rubber lube on the outside of that union, not on the inside or on the inside of the hose where it might contaminate the fluid, just on the outside of that little piece of plastic tube. Now, it might seem perhaps logical to assume that that's too small a bore to supply the fluid to that hose, but then the internal bore of that plastic union is 6mm, which is the same internal bore as this. So although that's quite a stretch to get that over there, and this is a way thinner hose than original, the internal bore is the same as that plastic internal bore. So it's going to supply plenty of fluid, and it's not supplying fluid anyway unless you're bleeding it. So that I'm happy to call safe. I've clipped it on, it's not coming off, it really isn't. If I went to take that off, I would heat it up first to get it off, because as that cools down now, that's going to shrink back to its original size and grip for England. It truly is. Right, now I've got to cut it to length. See where that's going to be mounted there. I think what I'll do is mount that first, and then I've got A to B to calculate the length of this that I need. So let's get the drill set up, make a little hole to screw that on. Ta-da! Awesome. Perfect little location for it. So I'll make a little spacer for the back that holds it at the right angle before I screw it in, and that will be fine right there. Superb. Right, let's do that next. And yes, I know that I should use cutting oil and not 3-in-1 oil when I'm cutting the thread. I don't have any cutting oil, but I have 3-in-1 oil, so I use that, because using something is better than using nothing. Gotcha. Nice. Always keep the odds and ends. Don't chuck stuff away. Check that out. Let me see it, focus. That little thing there is going to save the day. I've got to modify it, got to cut it down a bit, but the screw goes through it, and that shroud will then sit inside this plastic hole, which is unprotected, and it means I can tighten right down on it so it's nice and secure and doesn't vibrate loose, and I won't pinch or crack that in the meantime, and that will be allowed to move around and just sit there gently and absorb vibration, but the bolt itself will still be nice and tight. So that sort of thing is what the factory fit to stuff. So if you ever take it off, keep it in a box, don't ever chuck it away, it always comes in handy. First task is to get that little collet, if you want to call it that, to fit through there, because it's a little bit too big. Let's see how too big it is. 8.5mm, and the hole is 7.5mm. So that hole's a millimetre too small for that to fit through. That soft plastic, 0.5 millimetre all round is all it's going to take. Little round file, that will do it. Just going to dress that out, just a bit at a time. Almost. Ta-da! Excellent. Now that's a bit too long, so I've just got to grind that excess off. There it is. Reliable every time. Put that back in there for now. Right, there we are. That's another milestone reached in the build. That's the rear braking system completely signed off and ready for MOT. New disc, rebuilt caliper, new sintered pads, held braided steel hose and mini reservoir, and everything else, nice new fittings, new copper washers, everything sorted out, new stainless fittings to the lot. Really happy with that, happy to pass that off and take it for MOT for testing. That is superb. Now, there's loads of little jobs like this. I've got to do the same thing for the front brake reservoir. That's got the big donkey model. I still want to put something a lot nicer looking on that. The same goes for the clutch side. I've also got to paint the clutch slave cylinder and then bleed the clutch up. I think what I'm going to do is probably put one of these held braided hoses on the clutch as well, because I've got the original one on there. So quite a few of these little jobs to do, sadly. They're not necessarily as much fun for you as they are for me. I really enjoy doing that assembly stuff as much as I do the fabrication, really. But to be honest, fabrication is possibly nicer for you to watch because there's something at the end of it. But this, as far as I'm concerned, is something too. That's done. It's a nice looking install and I'm happy to pass that off for MOT. The next thing will be probably a little bit of paint work again. I'm going to try and intersperse this as I go down through the last videos towards the finish. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of bodywork to paint. You saw earlier I've got all the paint ready to do it, and the filler and paper and that sort of thing. So that's going to be in the next 4 or 5 videos, and then also interjecting that with other little bits and pieces as well. There's lots of these little jobs just like this to be done, and hopefully they'll all be interesting for you as much as they are for me. So there we are. Thank you for watching. I'll update the board. Take it easy, ride safe. See you next time.